We just learned about the Witty and how powerful a tool it is, which allows a client to prioritize their top criteria when choosing a provider or product which you are able to sell them. Up next is an extension of the Witty. It's something we're going to use during the Witty, a tactic called the value triangle, which refers to the balance between quality, service, and price when making decisions about how we are going to offer the proposal to the client. We will also learn about the 3D technique, which brings into focus even more what your client and prospects really desire and need in order to make the decision to give you the contract. Once more, here is Ray and Tony to talk to you about the value triangle.
Now we have their criteria on the Witty, ranked 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And in almost every case, quality, service, and price are in there in some order. There are other things involved too, but they are very, some people, price is even a non-issue. But most of the time, the majority of the time, those three will be selected in some order. So let's say that somebody checks price number 1 and quality 2 and service 3. Here's what I would say. Tony, so let me make sure I understand what you're telling me. You'll take a little lower quality for a better price? Is that what you're telling me?
No, I want both.
Really? Well, you know, and then I actually take out my value triangle. And some of my clients have made a little pyramid with quality, service, price, and they actually sit it down and have a discussion about it. But we'll say, well, look, there's no question. And I'm going, oh, by the way, I'm always going to use the customer's business model to make my point. So, a hospital. I'm going to say and I'm talking to the CEO of the hospital, and he says, I want all three. That not only do they want 2, they want all three.
They want the service as well.
They want great service, great quality, and the best price too.
The whole thing, yeah.
So, well, Mr. Hospital CEO, I want a private room, a big screen TV, the NFL package. I want a 24-hour nurse, and I want the best physician in the world on heart surgery because of my heart issues, and I want that for no more than the ward. Can I get that here?
Of course not.
Why not? I want them. I want the best quality and the best service, but the lowest price. Will I get that here at this hospital?
The obvious answer is of course not.
So I go to a car dealership. The Escalade. The guy sells, let's say he sells Toyota Corollas and Cadillac Escalades. I want the Cadillac Escalade for the Toyota Corolla price. Will you give it to me?
Of course not.
No, why not? I go to London and stay at a hotel there where they have 2 restaurants. Mm-hmm. One is a superb restaurant with Albert Roux, kind of like the Wolfgang Puck of Europe, just brilliant. And I had Chateaubriand there and great bottles of wine with your mother, by the way. And the bill was $300-400, maybe more. It was maybe $500-600, but it was not cheap. The next night, I wasn't that hungry. We go to the other restaurant. And the other restaurant had a steak about this thick and about this big. And it was like 15 pounds or $20. Right. And I says, is this the biggest steak you got? This is pretty bad. I said, I just got that great steak over at Alba Ruz. They says, yeah, but you paid a fortune for it. See, I wanted the bigger steak. They said, well, if you want a bigger, better steak, go over there. There's nothing that violates the value triangle.
Yeah.
I can get a bigger home for more money. I can get a big home with no insulation for less money.
And this has to clue the person who wants all three to the fact if someone else says, yes, I can give you everything you want.
It's impossible.
Really devaluing them as a competitor.
Look, simple. I can give you a 1/2-inch cube steak, 8 ounces, or a filet mignon at Ruth's Chris that's 2 inches thick.
Yeah.
Are you going to pay the same price?
Of course not.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Well, that's also true with the client. So I need to make the client understand. And here's what I'm going to say. My team, and this is now on a B2B sale especially, my team is going to have to make a decision on this value triangle about multiple times, sometimes 50, 60 times, putting your solution together, Mr. Client, And you have to tell me, because it's not my decision to make, if I can improve the quality and or the service, but it negatively impacts the price. Is that what you want me to do? Or do you want me to always have the price be the driver and then diminish either the service or the quality? Which is it?
Wow.
See, and here's the point. You need to have this conversation before you ever bring up the price. You notice this is a philosophical conversation.
Yeah.
We haven't talked about a price. We haven't talked about a solution. I'm asking philosophically what they want me to do. See, we don't have this conversation until after we quote a price. Now it's an objection to my price. There can't be any objection in this conversation.
Right.
You see, getting this information out up front is information. Waiting till the end is confrontation. And that's where salespeople get into so much trouble. When you go to the end and you're dealing with objections on price at the end, you've already presented your value proposition, and now you get an objection to your price. It becomes argumentative. It's a whole lot different than having this value triangle conversation before you hit them with your solution.
Well, having this conversation, I feel real conditioned just naturally to be more quality and service driven than price driven.
Now I'm going to use some examples. You know, somebody at BP thought that it was really a good idea by saving BP $500,000 by not having the shutoff valve on that deep well. What did it cost them? $100 billion for that $500,000 decision? Yeah. Huh? My procurement people, I want you to be thinking about that one.
Right.
And I'm going to use that example. Highest quality and lowest price, it's almost mutually impossible. It's just impossible to have both at the same time. Generally, the lowest price generally automatically guarantees the worst quality. That's why this whole best value vested outsourcing model is taking hold across the world. And I mean across the world, not just in the United States. Now, once I've done that, remember we said that we've got their criteria. Let's just say price, service, and quality. And he checks service number one. Let's just pick that. Well, your definition, no, let's take quality. Let's go back to Elbow Roux's restaurant in the steak.
Okay.
What's your definition of quality in a meal? If you're going to a restaurant, what would be your definition of quality?
Portion.
Portion?
Taste.
Taste?
And then speed of the food coming out of the restaurant.
And how quickly it comes.
Right.
Okay? That's Tony's. Some of you might say healthy choices, farm to fork, sustainability, not impact my blood sugar, visual, the presentation. The thing is, your definition and mine, and many of you, all of our definitions are different. Mm-hmm. I am not going to superimpose my definition of anything on the client. I need to get his definition. So we call this the 3D process. The first D is the witty itself. That's determining the client's criteria. The second D is getting their definition of those criteria. Price. What's your definition of a good price? The exact same thing I'm paying now. Okay, so in other words, you're looking for a revenue neutral decision that improves your KPIs. Is that what you're? So I want to get it.
Right.
Then the third D, which is the critical D, why did you choose that number one, whatever it was? Now we had in the BMW dealership, and it's in my book if you've read the book, where a woman came in to buy a BMW, and we had a game together, witty, and she checked quality. We asked her what her definition was, and she said a car that was reliable and handled well, which is an unusual conversation for a BMW. Mm-hmm. It's more like a Volvo conversation.
Yeah.
And then we said, well, why is that so important to you? And she said, well, 6 months ago, I loaned the car to our 17-year-old son. He got into an accident. And I believe if he had a car that handled well, he might have been able to prevent that accident. So now the dominant buying motive, the third D, was love of son or fear of loss. It's an emotion. The third D is an emotion. First D is determining their criteria. Second D is getting their definition. The third D is uncovering their dominant buying motive for their choice. So the BMW sales guys love to talk about that fact that car could do 160 miles an hour.
Right.
So imagine selling that to your mother. Oh yeah, my 17-year-old son
Yeah.
is going to get into a car that goes 160 miles an hour.
Yeah, if you told this lady you could,
Yeah, it would have
you
been
could
over.
take a turn
It would have been
60.
over.
Right.
It would have
okay.
been over. So that's the point. Uncovering and most salespeople do not get to the dominant buying motive.
Why is it such an overlooked piece? We see it in our classes all the time.
It's because the first two D's are one question. Here's the witty, please fill it out. What's your definition? The third D might take 7 or 8 questions. Well, what does that do for you? How will that impact you? How does that impact your ability to achieve your goal? And if you haven't resonated way back in step 1 again, you'll never get to the dominant buying motive. Because this is a connection. This is a deeper conversation.
Right. Like they're going to open up something.
I built a swimming pool for a woman whose husband had had a stroke. So it was the whole idea of quality of life for her husband, not having fun in the pool with the neighbors. You need to know that.
Yeah.
You need to know that stuff. A school superintendent wanted to get a bond referendum passed. Why did he want the bond referendum? He promised, this was his last stop before retirement, and he promised the voters of that county that he was going to help build them schools, and if he couldn't get the bond referendum passed, he would have failed at his last stop before he left. That was his connection. So you need to uncover the dominant buying motive.